It was Christmas Eve when my life shattered. I stood on the front steps of my parents' mansion in Hillsborough. My father threw my heavy suitcase out the door. It hit the marble with a loud thud.
He didn't look at me.
He just looked tired of my existence. My mother stood behind him, looking at the floor. She wouldn't meet my eyes. But my sister, Tara, was watching everything. She was holding her phone up, recording a video. She was laughing. "Look at her," Tara said to her screen. "The princess is finally out on the street." The heavy door slammed shut. The lock clicked. I was alone in the freezing fog. I walked away because I didn't know what else to do. By the old church, I saw a woman sitting on a bench. She had no shoes. Her feet looked blue. I took off my warm coat and put it around her. I had nothing left, but she had even less. An hour later, 19 black sedans pulled up to the curb. The barefoot woman stood up. She wasn't shivering anymore. She looked at me with sharp, clear eyes. "I've been watching you," she said. "I know exactly who you really are." Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? The day my life fell apart started with rain. It was a cold, gray morning in San Francisco. I sat at my small desk in the corner of the ad agency. I liked my job. It wasn't glamorous. I wasn't the boss. But it was mine. I paid my own rent. I bought my own groceries. I felt proud of that. My boss, Mr. Henderson, called me into his office at 9 a.m. He didn't look at me. He looked at his papers. "Lennon," he said, "we have to let you go." I felt the air leave my lungs.
"What? Why?"
"I finished the project early. I stayed late every night this week. Budget cuts," he said simply. "Pack your things. You need to be out by noon." Just like that, it was over. I walked out of the building with a cardboard box in my hands. The rain soaked my hair. I stood on the sidewalk and checked my bank account on my phone. I had $300. My rent was due in 2 days. I couldn't pay it. I had no choice. I had to call home. I dialed the number for the mansion in Hillsborough. My hands were shaking. I wasn't shaking because of the cold. I was shaking because of them. "Hello." My mother answered. Her voice sounded distant, like she was talking to a stranger. "Mom, it's Lennon," I said. "I lost my job. Today." There was a silence on the other end. I waited for her to say, "Oh, honey, are you okay? Or come home. We'll fix this." Instead, she sighed. It was a long, heavy sigh. "This is terrible timing, Lennon. It's Christmas Eve. We have the party tonight." "I know," I said. My voice felt small. "I don't have anywhere else to go. Can I come stay for a few days? Just until I find a new job." "I suppose," she said. "But don't cause a scene. Your sister has big news. Tonight is about Tara." "I won't," I promised. "I'll be invisible." I drove my old sedan south to Hillsborough. The car made a rattling noise the whole way. I prayed it wouldn't break down. When I pulled up to the gate of my parents' estate, my stomach twisted into a knot. The house was massive. It looked like a castle made of white stone. The windows were glowing with warm, golden light. A giant wreath hung on the front door. It looked perfect. It looked like the kind of home you see in movies. But I knew the truth. It was a cold place. I parked my rusty car far away from the entrance, behind the hedges. I didn't want to embarrass them. I grabbed my suitcase and walked to the front door. I didn't knock. I used my key. I walked into the foyer. The smell hit me first. It smelled like expensive pine candles and roasted meat. The hallway was filled with flowers. Red poinsettias were everywhere. "Lennon, is that you?" I looked up. My father, Richard, was standing at the top of the grand staircase. He was wearing a tuxedo. He looked powerful and angry. "Hi, Dad," I said. "I'm sorry to intrude." "You look like a drowned rat," he said. He walked down the stairs. He didn't hug me. He didn't offer to take my bag. "Go get changed. The guests will be here in 2 hours. And for God's sake, do something with your hair." I nodded. "Okay." I started to walk toward the back stairs, the ones the servants used. But then I heard a laugh. It was a laugh I knew very well. "Oh, look who dragged herself in." I turned around. My sister, Tara, walked into the room. She looked stunning. She was wearing a red silk dress that probably cost more than my car. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. She held a glass of champagne in one hand. But it wasn't Tara that made my heart stop. It was the man holding her other hand. It was Derek. Derek Whitaker. My ex-boyfriend. The man I had dated for 3 years. The man who told me he wasn't ready for a commitment 6 months ago. He was standing there in my parents' house, holding my sister's hand. "Hey, Lennon," Derek said. He didn't look ashamed. He smiled like we were old friends. "Good to see you." I dropped my bag. "Derek, what are you doing here?" Tara stepped forward. She held up her left hand. A diamond ring the size of a grape sparkled under the chandelier. "We're engaged," she squealed. "Isn't it amazing? Derek proposed this morning." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. You're marrying my sister?" "We're in love, Lennon," Derek said smoothly. "Tara understands me. She understands my world." "His world," I whispered. "He meant money. He meant status." My mother, Margaret, walked in from the dining room. She was adjusting a pearl necklace. She looked at me, then at Tara. "Lennon, don't make a face," Mom said. "Be happy for your sister. Derek is a wonderful catch. He comes from a good family. He was my boyfriend," I said. My voice was shaking again. "Mom, we lived together." "That was a fling," Tara said, waving her hand. "This is real. We are going to be a power couple." "Enough," Dad said. His voice boomed through the hall. "We have family business to discuss before dinner. Everyone into the study."
Now.
I left my bag in the hall. I followed them into the study. This was the room where my father made his deals. It had dark wood walls and leather chairs. Dad sat behind his massive desk. Mom sat in a chair near the window. Tara and Derek sat on the sofa, close together. There was no chair for me. I stood in the middle of the room. "As you know," Dad started, "I have been reviewing the family trust. The Hayes family fortune is substantial. $38 million. He paused. He looked at Tara. Then he looked at me. "I have decided to make some changes to the will and the trust distribution," he said, "to protect the legacy of this family." "What kind of changes?" I asked. I had a bad feeling. "Lennon," Dad said, "you have always been difficult. You chose to go to a state college. You chose a low-paying job in the city. You drive a wreck. You don't fit in with our world. I wanted to be independent," I said. "You told me to work hard. You are mediocre," Dad said. The word hung in the air. Tara, on the other hand, is about to marry a Whitaker. She is building connections. She is enhancing the family name. He picked up a document. Effective immediately, the entire family trust, all $38 million, the real estate and the stocks, is transferred to Tara Hayes. The room went silent. "What?" I asked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, that's not fair. You're cutting me out? You get nothing?" Derek asked, looking at me. His eyes went cold. He wasn't looking at me with pity. He was looking at me like I was trash. "Lennon will receive a stipend of $500 a month for 1 year," Dad said, "to help her transition to her simple life. After that, nothing." "But I just lost my job," I said. I felt tears pricking my eyes. "I have nothing. I can't pay my rent." "And you're giving everything to Tara? She doesn't even work." "Being a socialite is work," Tara snapped. "I have a brand to maintain. You wouldn't understand." "It's done," Dad said. He signed the paper with a heavy stroke of his pen. "The lawyers have already filed it. Lennon, you are officially disinherited." I looked at my mother. "Mom, are you okay with this?" Mom looked at her fingernails. "Your father knows best, Lennon. Maybe this will motivate you. You've always been too soft." I stood there, surrounded by the people who were supposed to love me. My sister was stealing my ex-boyfriend and my future. My parents were stealing my security. I realized then that I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a mistake they were trying to erase. "Now," Dad said, standing up, "dinner is in 20 minutes. Fix your face, Lennon. You look pathetic." I walked out of the study. My legs felt like jelly. I went to the guest bathroom on the first floor. I locked the door and stared at myself in the mirror. My face was pale. My eyes were red. My hair was frizzy from the rain. I looked at my reflection and tried to find the strong woman I thought I was. She wasn't there. All I saw was a victim. I splashed cold water on my face. "Don't cry," I told myself.
Do not let them see you cry.
I had to survive tonight. I would eat dinner, sleep in the guest room, and leave in the morning. I would figure out my life later. Right now, I just needed a roof over my head. I walked into the dining room. The table was set for a feast. Crystal glasses, silver forks, white candles. There was a massive roast turkey, bowls of mashed potatoes, and expensive wine. Tara and Derek were already seated. They were whispering and giggling. Mom and Dad were at the heads of the table. I sat in the empty chair across from Tara. "So," Tara said loudly. She picked up her phone. She adjusted the ring light attached to the top of it. "I'm going to do a quick live stream for my followers. Everyone say hi." She hit record. "Hey guys, it's Tara," she shouted at the phone.
She
Put on a fake, bright smile. "Merry Christmas Eve. I have the best news. Look at this rock." She flashed the ring. "I'm engaged. And my amazing daddy just gave me the best gift ever. The entire family empire is officially mine." She panned the camera to Dad. Dad smiled and raised his wine glass. "To Tara," he said. Then she turned the camera to me. "And look who's here," Tara said. Her voice dropped to a mock-sad tone. "It's my sister, Lennon. Say hi, Lennon." I looked down at my plate. "Tara, please don't." She's shy," Tara said to the camera. "Guys, you won't believe this. Lennon got fired today. On Christmas Eve."
Can you believe that?
My head snapped up. "Tara, stop it. She lost her job as what was it? An assistant." Tara laughed. "And she came crawling back home because she's broke. Literally $0. It's so sad. But don't worry, we're letting her eat some turkey." I saw the comments popping up on her screen. I couldn't read them, but I knew what they said. "People love to hate a loser." "Put the phone away," I said. My voice was steady, but inside I was burning.
Why?
Tara asked. "Are you embarrassed? You should be. You're 30 years old, and you have nothing. No man, no money, no career. You're basically a charity case." I looked at Dad. "Dad, tell her to stop." Dad cut a piece of turkey. He didn't look up. "She's just having fun, Lennon. Don't be so sensitive. Maybe if you had a sense of humor, you wouldn't be single." That broke something inside me. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. "I worked hard for that job," I said. I looked at all of them. "I worked my way through college while you paid for Tara's vacations. I built a life without your help. I didn't ask for your money until today. I just needed a family. I just needed support." "Support is for people who deserve it," Derek said. He took a sip of wine. "Face it, Lennon. You're just not impressive. I am your daughter." I screamed at my father. "Doesn't that mean anything?" Dad slammed his fork down. The sound echoed in the big room. "It means you represent this family," he said. His voice was cold as ice. "And right now, you are an embarrassment. You come in here looking like a beggar demanding things. You disrupt my dinner." "I didn't demand anything. I just wanted a place to sleep." "You've had every advantage," Dad said. He stood up. He was tall and intimidating. "I gave you life. I gave you education. If you can't make it on your own by now, that is your failure, not mine. It is time you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Richard," Mom said softly. "Maybe we can just—" "Quiet, Margaret," Dad snapped. He looked at me. "Get out." I froze. "What?" "Get out of my house," Dad said. "You want to be independent?
Fine.
Go be independent. Right now." "But it's snowing," I said. "It's freezing. I have nowhere to go." "Not my problem," Dad said. "Tara, keep filming. Let the world see what happens to people who are lazy." Tara giggled. She held the phone steady. "This is gold," she whispered. I looked at my mother one last time. "Mom, please. It's Christmas." Mom looked at me. Her eyes were sad, but she was weak.
She was afraid of him.
She turned her head and looked out the dark window. She turned her back on me. That hurt more than anything Dad said. Dad walked around the table. He grabbed my arm. His grip was hard. He pulled me toward the hallway. "Let go of me," I cried. He dragged me to the front door. He opened it. The cold wind rushed in. Snow was falling heavily now. He grabbed my suitcase from where I had left it. He threw it out onto the marble steps. It tumbled down and landed in a pile of snow. "Dad, please," I begged. "I have no money. I have no gas in my car." "Figure it out," he said. He shoved me. I stumbled backward, tripping over the doorframe. I fell onto the cold, wet stone of the porch. The cold seeped through my thin jeans instantly. I looked up. Dad was standing in the warm light of the doorway. Tara was behind him, the phone still pointed at my face. Derek was standing there, watching with a smirk. "Merry Christmas, Lennon," Tara said. Dad slammed the heavy wooden door.
Click.
I heard the lock turn. Then, I heard the electronic beep-beep of the security system arming. They had locked me out. They had turned on the alarm. If I tried to break in, the police would come and arrest me. I sat there on the cold stone. The snow fell on my hair. I watched the golden light in the windows. I could see their shadows moving back to the dining room. They were going to finish their dinner. They were going to drink their wine. They didn't care if I froze to death. I slowly stood up. My knees were bruised. I walked down the steps and picked up my suitcase. It was heavy. My hands were already numb. I walked to my car. I turned the key.
Click, click, click.
The engine was dead. The battery had died in the cold. I sat in the driver's seat and screamed. I screamed until my throat hurt. But no one heard me. The mansion was too big. The walls were too thick. I got out of the car. I couldn't stay here. If I stayed here, I would die of cold. I grabbed my suitcase. I started walking. I walked down the long driveway. I walked out the iron gates. I walked onto the dark road. The wind cut through my thin jacket. My shoes were soaking wet. I was walking into the black night with nothing but the clothes on my back and a broken heart. That was the night I stopped believing family meant love. Family was just a word. And for me, it was a word that meant pain. My feet hurt. That was the only thing I could feel. I had been walking for an hour. The snow was getting deeper. My thin sneakers were soaked through. I couldn't feel my toes anymore. I walked down the winding road from the hills. The houses got smaller as I got closer to the town center. The windows were all dark or glowing with Christmas lights. I could see families inside. I saw a dad lifting a little girl to put a star on a tree. I saw a mom carrying a tray of cookies. I looked away.
It hurt too much to watch.
I reached the bottom of the hill. I was in the old part of town. There was a small park next to an old stone church. In the summer, this park was full of kids. Tonight, it was empty. It was a ghost town. Everyone was inside, warm and safe. I was shivering so hard my teeth were clicking together.
Clack, clack,
Clack. I couldn't stop it. I saw a bench under a street lamp. The light was buzzing and flickering. I walked toward it. I just wanted to sit down. I just wanted to close my eyes for a minute. Then I saw something on the bench. It was a pile of old blankets. No, not blankets.
rags.
Gray, dirty rags. The pile moved. I stopped. Hello, I whispered. A head popped up from the rags. It was an old woman. Her hair was wild and gray, matted with dirt. Her face was wrinkled and smeared with soot. She looked at me with wide, watery eyes.
But it was her feet that made me gasp.
She wasn't wearing shoes. She wasn't even wearing socks. Her bare feet were resting on the frozen concrete. They were swollen. They were a dark, ugly purple color.
She was freezing to death.
I stood there in my winter coat. It was a good coat. It was wool, thick and warm. It was the last expensive thing I owned. I looked at the woman. She was shivering worse than I was. She wrapped her thin, dirty arms around herself. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for food. She just looked at me, and her teeth chattered. I thought about my family. They were probably eating dessert right now. They were warm. They had millions of dollars. And they had thrown me out. I looked at this woman. She had nothing. No one knew she was here. If she stayed here tonight, she would die. The morning news would find a frozen body on a bench. I realized something then. I was at rock bottom. But she was lower. I didn't think. I just acted. My fingers were stiff, but I unbuttoned my coat. Here, I said. My voice was raspy. The woman looked up. She looked confused. I took the coat off. The cold air hit me like a hammer. It stole the breath from my lungs. I was wearing only a thin blouse underneath. The wind bit into my skin instantly. I stepped forward and wrapped the heavy wool coat around the woman's shoulders. I buttoned it up to her chin.
Take it, I said. Please.
It's warm. I took off my scarf too. I wrapped it around her head, covering her ears. The woman stopped shivering for a second. She reached out with a dirty hand and touched my arm. Her skin was rough like sandpaper. You, she whispered. Her voice sounded like dry leaves. You are cold. I'll be okay. I lied. I wasn't going to be okay. I was going to freeze, but somehow, it didn't matter. I felt a strange calm. If this was the end, at least I did one good thing. The woman grabbed my hand. She squeezed it hard. Her eyes were suddenly very sharp. They didn't look like the eyes of a confused old lady anymore. They looked blue and bright. Kindness like yours is rarer than diamonds, she said. She stared at me for a long moment. It felt like she was looking right into my soul. Thank you, she whispered. I nodded. I couldn't speak. I was shaking too hard now. I turned away. I needed to keep moving. If I sat down, I would die. I had to find a 24-hour diner or a police station, somewhere with heat. I walked toward the edge of the park. My body was numb. My vision was getting blurry. When I looked back at the bench a minute later, the woman was gone. The bench was empty. The rags were gone. My coat was gone. It was like she had vanished into the fog. I stumbled to the curb and sat down on the sidewalk. I pulled my knees to my chest. I couldn't walk anymore. The cold was inside my bones now. I closed my eyes. Maybe this is it, I thought. Maybe this is how it ends. I sat there in the dark, waiting for the sleep to come. I don't know how much time passed. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. The cold wasn't painful anymore. That was the scary part. I felt sleepy. I felt heavy. My head dropped onto my knees. I drifted into a dark, fuzzy place. Then, light hit my eyelids. Bright, white light. I heard the sound of engines. Low, powerful rumbles. Not the rattling sound of my old car. This sounded like a machine. I forced my eyes open.
Headlights. Dozens of them.
They were cutting through the thick fog like lasers. They were coming from both ends of the street. They were surrounding the park. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't work. I slumped back against the lamppost. A line of cars pulled up to the curb, right in front of me. They were black sedans. Shiny, sleek, and terrifying. They looked like government cars. Or mafia cars.
There were so many of them.
I counted 5, 10, 19. 19 identical black cars lined up on the empty street. The engines hummed. The exhaust made white clouds in the cold air. Is this the police? I wondered. Did my father call the police to arrest me for loitering? The door of the middle car opened. A man stepped out first. He was huge. He wore a black suit and an earpiece. He held a large black umbrella. He walked around to the back door and opened it. A woman stepped out. I blinked. I thought I was hallucinating. She was wearing a long, camel-colored coat that looked like cashmere. She wore black leather gloves. Her silver hair was pulled back in an elegant bun. On her ears, diamonds sparkled. Real diamonds, big and bright. She walked toward me. Her heels clicked on the pavement.
Click, click, click.
The sound was confident and steady. She stopped in front of me. She looked down. Lennon Hayes, she said. I looked up at her. Who are you? She smiled. It was a small, knowing smile. You gave me your coat, she said. My brain couldn't process it. What?
30 minutes ago, she said.
On that bench. You gave your coat to a dying old woman. You thought no one was watching. You thought you were alone. I stared at her face.
The eyes.
They were the same blue eyes. It was you. I whispered. But you were. I was in disguise, she said. I spend 1 week every year on the streets to remind myself what the cold feels like, to see who the people really are when the world isn't looking. She signaled to the big man with the umbrella. He stepped forward and wrapped a thick, heated blanket around me. It felt like heaven. My name is Eleanor Callaway, the woman said. I gasped. I knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Eleanor Callaway was the widow of the steel tycoon. She ran the Callaway Family Foundation. She was one of the richest women in America. She was a legend. Why? I asked. My teeth were still chattering. I've been watching your family, Lennon, Eleanor said. Her voice turned hard. I know Richard. I know his business practices. I know how he treats his employees. And I suspected he treated his family the same way. She crouched down so she was eye level with me.
I was testing you, she said.
I needed to know if you were like them. If you were cruel. If you were selfish. She reached out and touched my cheek with her gloved hand. It was warm. You are nothing like them, she said softly. You gave your last warmth to a stranger. You have a heart, Lennon. And a heart is the only thing I cannot buy. She stood up and extended her hand to me. Stand up, Lennon. I grabbed her hand. She was strong. She pulled me up. My legs were wobbly, but the big bodyguard caught me. Where are we going? I asked. Home, Eleanor said. Not the house you came from. That wasn't a home. That was a bank vault. She pointed to the open door of the black sedan. The interior was glowing with warm amber light. I could see soft leather seats. I have a proposition for you, Eleanor said. I am getting old. I have an empire of philanthropy, but I have no heir. I have no children. I have been looking for someone to teach. Someone who understands pain. Someone who wants to fix the world, not just own it. She looked at me intensely. If you are who I believe you are, you will learn to rebuild the world from the ground up. I will give you a job. I will give you a salary. And I will give you a purpose. I looked back at the dark street. I looked the way I had come, the road that led back to my parents' house. There was nothing for me there. Only cold. I looked at Eleanor. She looked like safety. She looked like a future. I'm ready, I whispered. Good, she said. I climbed into the back of the car. The heat wrapped around me. The door closed with a heavy, solid thud. It shut out the cold. It shut out the wind. It shut out my old life. Eleanor got in beside me. The car began to move. Rest now, Lennon, she said. Tomorrow, the real work begins. As the convoy of 19 black cars drove away into the night, I watched the snowflakes hitting the window. I wasn't the victim anymore. I didn't know what I was yet, but I knew one thing. I was safe. I woke up in a bed that felt like a cloud. The sheets were silk. The room was warm. Sunlight was pouring through a window that was taller than me. For a second, I panicked. I thought I was back in my parents' house. I thought I was going to walk downstairs and hear my father yelling or see my sister laughing at me. Then I remembered. The cold bench. The barefoot woman. The 19 black cars. I sat up. This room was different. It was elegant, but it wasn't showy. There were no gold statues or velvet curtains. It was clean, bright, and simple. The door opened. A woman walked in. She was carrying a tray with a pot of coffee and a green smoothie. She wasn't a maid. She was wearing a sharp gray suit. She had short, dark hair and glasses. She looked like she could run a small country before breakfast. Good morning, Lennon, she said. She put the tray down on the desk. I'm Grace O'Neill. Drink the smoothie. You have 10 minutes to shower. We start at 7 a.m. sharp. Start what? I asked, rubbing my eyes. Your life, Grace said. She didn't smile. She walked to the closet and opened it. Inside were rows of clothes. Suits, blazers, running gear. No frills. No bright colors. Just serious, functional clothes. Eleanor picked these out, Grace said. Put on the running shoes. We run first. We think later. That was the beginning of my new reality. I moved into Eleanor Callaway's estate in Atherton. It was a massive property, filled with oak trees and gardens. But I wasn't there to relax. I wasn't a guest on vacation. I was a student. Eleanor Callaway didn't just give money away. She built things. She fixed broken systems. And she wanted me to do the same. My days were grueling. 5:30 a.m. Wake up. 6 a.m. Run 3 miles with Grace. Grace was 40, but she could outrun me easily. She pushed me every step of the way. Faster, Lennon. Laziness is a luxury you can't afford. 7:30 a.m. Breakfast with Eleanor. This wasn't a casual chat. She would put the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal in front of me. Read the headline on page 4, she would say. Tell me how that affects the housing market in Detroit. If I didn't know the answer, she made me look it up. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., the classroom. I spent hours in the library with tutors. I learned nonprofit finance. I learned about tax laws. I learned how to read a balance sheet until my eyes blurred. I learned about urban planning and zoning laws. It was hard. My brain hurt constantly. One afternoon, about 2 months in, I slammed a book shut. Why do I need to know this? I asked Eleanor. We were sitting in her sunroom. I thought we were helping people. Why am I studying interest rates? Eleanor put down her tea. She looked at me over her reading glasses. Lennon, she said calm. Do you know why most charities fail? No, I said. Because they operate on emotion, not logic, she said. If you see a hungry man and you give him a sandwich, you feed him for an hour. That is kindness. But it is not change. She stood up and walked to the window. We don't give fish, she said. We don't even teach them to fish. We buy the river. We clean the water. We change the laws so that everyone can fish. She turned back to me. To do that, you need to understand power. You need to understand money better than the people who are hoarding it. Your father understands money, but he uses it to build walls. I am teaching you to use it to build bridges. Bridges require engineering. They require math. I looked down at the book. Advanced Macroeconomics. I get it, I whispered. Good, she said. Now, chapter 4. I didn't just learn from books. I learned from watching Eleanor. She took me to meetings. I sat in the corner of boardrooms filled with billionaires, mayors, and senators. These were men who ran the world. They were loud. They were arrogant. I watched how Eleanor handled them. She never raised her voice. She never got angry. She just asked questions. Sharp, pointed questions that made them stutter. One day, we were meeting with a real estate developer. He wanted a grant from the foundation to build affordable housing. He was a slick man. He wore a shiny suit and smiled too much. "It's a great opportunity, Eleanor," he said. "We'll build 500 units. It will look great for your image." Eleanor sat silently. She looked at me.
"Lennon," she said.
"What do you think?" The room went quiet. The developer looked at me. He looked at my simple suit. He sneered a little. "Who is she?" he asked. "An intern?" "She is my associate," Eleanor said. "Lennon, look at the proposal on page 10. The rent prices." I opened the folder. My hands were sweating. I looked at the numbers. I did the math in my head just like Grace had taught me. "The rent is set at $1,800 a month for a studio," I said. My voice was shaky, but I forced it to be steady. "So," the developer said, "that's market rate. But the average income in that neighborhood is $24,000 a year," I said. I looked up. If a person makes $2,000 a month, they can't afford $1,800 for rent. They would have $200 left for food, lights, and heat. This isn't affordable housing. This is gentrification disguised as charity. The developer's face turned red. "Now wait a minute, young lady." "She's right," Eleanor said. She closed the folder. "We're not interested. Thank you for your time." We walked out of the building. I felt a rush of adrenaline. "You did good," Eleanor said as we got into the car. "He was trying to trick you," I said. "He was trying to trick us," she corrected. "He thought because we are women we wouldn't check the math. Never let them think you're soft, Lennon. You can be kind, but you must be sharp." That night, I lay in bed. I thought about my family. I wondered what Tara was doing. Probably planning her wedding. Probably spending the money that used to be mine. I realized something strange. I didn't miss them. For the first time in my life, I felt useful. I wasn't just Lennon the disappointment. I wasn't just Tara's sister. I was becoming someone else. I was becoming dangerous. Not violent dangerous, but smart dangerous. I fell asleep with a smile on my face. 6 months passed. The seasons changed. The rain of winter turned into the flowers of spring, and then the heat of summer. I had changed too. My hair was longer. I stopped slumping my shoulders. I walked with my head up. Grace told me I walked like a soldier now. I had learned the theory. Now it was time for the test. "Pack a bag," Eleanor told me one morning. "We are going to the field." "Where?" I asked. "Downtown," she said. "The shelter on 4th Street. The director quit yesterday. It's in chaos. I need you to go down there and fix it." "Me?" I asked. "Alone?" "Grace will be there to watch," Eleanor said. "But she will not help you. You are in charge. You have 1 week." I arrived at the shelter an hour later. It was a converted warehouse. It was supposed to be a safe place for families who lost their homes. It was a disaster. There were people shouting in the lobby. The trash cans were overflowing. A baby was crying in the corner, and the mother looked exhausted. The staff looked stressed and angry. "Who are you?" the shift manager asked me. He was a big guy named Mike. He looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. "I'm Lennon," I said, "from the Callaway Foundation." "Great," Mike grunted. "Another suit. We don't need inspections, lady. We need diapers. We need food. We need the plumbing fix." "I'm not here to inspect," I said. I took off my blazer. I rolled up my sleeves. "Show me the plumbing." Mike blinked. "What?" "Show me the leak," I said. For the next 7 days, I didn't sleep much. I didn't sit in the office. I worked on the floor. I organized the supply closet. I called a plumber and negotiated a discount because it was for a charity. I sat with the mothers and listened to their stories. On the 3rd day, a fight broke out. 2 men were arguing over a bed. One of them was a veteran named Marcus. He was shaking. He was scared. "This is my spot," Marcus yelled. "I need to be near the door." Security was about to throw him out. "Wait," I yelled. I stepped in between the security guard and Marcus. "Lady, move," the guard said. "He's dangerous." "He's not dangerous," I said. I looked at Marcus. I saw the fear in his eyes. I knew that fear. I felt it on Christmas Eve. "Marcus," I said softly, "I know why you want to be near the door. You need to know you can leave if you have to. You feel trapped." Marcus looked at me. His breathing slowed down. I can't be boxed in." "I know," I said. "I know what it feels like to have no control. To have someone lock a door on you." I turned to Mike. "Move the bed assignment. Give Marcus the cot by the exit. Move the other gentleman to the window. He likes the light anyway." Mike hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, we can do that." Marcus looked at me. Thank you, he whispered. You're safe here, I told him. Nobody is going to throw you out. By the end of the week, the shelter was different. It wasn't perfect, but it was calm. The floors were clean. The system was working. The staff smiled again. On Friday afternoon, a black car pulled up. Eleanor stepped out. She walked through the lobby. She saw the clean floors. She saw Marcus sitting calmly by the door, reading a book. She saw the mothers chatting in the dining area. She walked into the small, cramped office where I was working on the budget. I had coffee stains on my shirt. My hair was in a messy bun. You look terrible, Eleanor said. But she was smiling. We need more funding for fresh vegetables, I said immediately. And the roof needs patching before winter. I did a cost analysis. If we fix it now, it saves us $10,000 later. Eleanor laughed.
It was a warm, happy sound.
Lennon, stop, she said. She sat down across from me. She placed a thick blue folder on the desk. You passed, she said. I passed. I sent you here to see if you could handle the reality, Eleanor said. It's easy to be charitable from a mansion. It's hard to be charitable when you smell the bleach and hear the crying. You didn't run away. You rolled up your sleeves. She pushed the folder toward me. Open it. I opened the folder. It was a legal contract. My eyes scanned the top of the page. Employment agreement name. Lennon Hayes title, President and Chief Executive Officer, CEO, Organization, the Callaway Family Foundation. I froze. I stopped breathing. President. I choked out. Eleanor, no. I'm just an apprentice. I'm not ready. You are ready, Eleanor said firmly. I am stepping down as CEO. I will remain chairman of the board. But you will run the river. But why me? I asked. Tears started to spill down my cheeks. 6 months ago, I was homeless. I was nobody. My own family threw me away like garbage. Eleanor reached across the desk and took my hands. Her grip was tight. That is exactly why, she said. Lennon, listen to me. Your family threw you out because they were blind. They only saw status. They didn't see you. She leaned in closer. Do you remember that night? On the bench. Yes, I said. I'll never forget it. You gave away your coat when no one was watching, Eleanor said softly. You were freezing, you were dying, and you still chose to help someone else. That is not something I can teach. You have it or you don't. She tapped the contract. I have spent my life making money. Now, I am giving you the power to use it. You gave me warmth that night. Now, I am giving you the chance to give the world warmth. I looked at the paper. I looked at the title, President. I thought about my father telling me I was mediocre. I thought about Tara laughing at my failure. I thought about the lock clicking shut. They were wrong. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake. Okay, I said. I'll do it. I signed my name, Lennon Hayes. Eleanor stood up. She looked proud. Congratulations, Madam President. Now go wash your face. We have a gala to plan. And I have a feeling you're going to need a new dress. I stood up. I felt different. The victim was gone. The scared girl on the porch was gone. I was the CEO of a billion-dollar foundation. I had the power to change lives. And I knew deep down that my past was about to catch up with me. My family was out there. And sooner or later, our paths would cross again. But this time, I wouldn't be the one on my knees. It was a Tuesday in November. The rain was hitting the glass walls of my office in San Francisco. I was sitting at my desk, looking at the blueprints for our new housing project. My intercom buzzed. It was Grace.
Lennon, she said.
Her voice sounded strange. It was tight. Yes, Grace? There are some people here to see you. They don't have an appointment. Who is it? I asked. The mayor? The investors? There was a pause.
No.
It's the Hayes family. I stopped writing. The pen hovered over the paper. My heart gave a single, hard thump against my ribs. It had been 11 months. I hadn't spoken to them since the night they locked the door. I took a deep breath. I looked at my reflection in the window. I wasn't the girl in the wet sneakers anymore. I was wearing a tailored navy suit. I was the president of the Callaway Foundation. Send them in, I said calmly. The double doors opened. I expected them to walk in like they owned the place. I expected my father's booming voice and my sister's high-pitched laugh. But the people who walked in looked like ghosts. My father, Richard, looked 10 years older. His suit was wrinkled. His shoulders were slumped. He wasn't holding his head up. My mother, Margaret, looked pale. She wasn't wearing her usual diamonds. She was wearing a plain coat that looked worn out. And Tara. My sister. She wasn't filming. She wasn't holding a phone. Her hair was messy, pulled back in a loose ponytail. She wore no makeup. She looked tired and angry. Derek wasn't with them. They stood near the door, looking at my office. It was huge. It was beautiful. The view of the city was breathtaking.
Hello, I said.
I didn't stand up. I stayed behind my desk. It was my shield.
Lennon, Dad said.
His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. You've done well for yourself. I have, I said. Why are you here?
We need to talk, Mom said.
She stepped forward. We're family, Lennon. We ceased to be family on Christmas Eve, I said. My voice was flat. State your business. Tara scoffed. Don't be such a bitch, Lennon. We know you have money now. We saw you on the news. Eleanor Callaway left you in charge.
She did, I said.
And Dad sighed. He pulled out a chair and sat down without asking. He put his head in his hands. We lost it, he whispered. Lost what?
I asked.
Everything, Dad said.
The trust.
The house. The investments. I looked at them.
How?
You had $38 million. It was a scam, Tara blurted out. It's not our fault. Dad put half the money into a Ponzi scheme his friend told him about.
And I
invested the rest in crypto. Crypto? I raised an eyebrow. It crashed, Tara said, her voice rising. It all crashed. We lost 90% of the portfolio in a week. The bank took the house yesterday. They foreclosed on the mansion. I looked at them. The mighty Hayes family, homeless, just like they had made me.
We need help, Mom said.
She was crying now. We need a loan, just until we get back on our feet. $2 million. That's all we need. $2 million, I repeated. That's a lot of money. It's nothing to this foundation, Dad said. He slammed his hand on the desk, trying to be the boss again. You sit on billions. Write the check, Lennon. We are your blood. I looked at his hand on my desk. I remembered that hand throwing my suitcase into the snow. I can't give you foundation money, I said. That money is for people in need. It is for victims of abuse. It is for the homeless. It is for veterans. We are homeless. Tara screamed. We are in need. You are in need because of your own greed, I said. I opened my desk drawer. I pulled out 3 small cards. I slid them across the polished wood table. What is this? Dad asked. The card on the left is a debt recovery counselor, I said. He is excellent. He can help you declare bankruptcy and manage what little you have left.
I pointed to the middle card.
That is a flyer for a financial literacy course. It's free. It teaches you how to budget, how to save, and how not to fall for scams. I pointed to the last card. And that is the number for a crisis hotline. If you feel overwhelmed, they will listen. Tara stared at the cards. Her face turned red. Is this a joke? She spat. You're offering us a class? We need cash. I don't have cash for you, I said. When I came to you for help, I didn't ask for millions. I asked for a bed. I asked for kindness. You gave me the street. I stood up. This is what we offer anyone who destroyed their safety net, I said. You told me to stand on my own 2 feet. You told me to be independent. Now I am giving you the same gift. You ungrateful brat. Dad shouted. He stood up, his face purple. After everything I gave you. I pressed the button on my desk. Security, I said into the speaker. Please escort my guests out. 2 large guards walked in. They were polite but firm. Please, sir, the guard said to my father. Dad looked at me with pure hatred. You are dead to me. I was dead to you a long time ago, I said. I just finally accepted it. Mom looked at me one last time. Lennon, please. Goodbye, Mom, I said. They turned and walked out. Tara snatched the cards off the desk before she left. I watched the door close. The room was silent. I thought I would feel guilty. I thought I would feel sad. But I didn't. I felt light. I felt like a heavy weight had finally dropped off my shoulders. I sat back down. I picked up my pen. I went back to work. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Tara wasn't done. 3 days later, I was in a meeting with the city council when Grace walked in. She looked worried. She handed me her tablet. You need to see this, she said. It was a video on social media. Tara had posted it an hour ago. She was sitting in a cheap motel room, crying fake tears. Guys, I have to tell you the truth, Tara sobbed into the camera. My sister, Lennon Hayes, runs the Callaway Foundation. She has billions. And she let her own parents sleep on the street. She's a monster. She kicked us out of her office. She laughed at us. The caption read, #boycott Callaway, #evil sister. I felt a cold spike in my stomach. Is it trending? Yes, Grace said. People are angry. They are commenting that you are a hypocrite. I closed my eyes. She's trying to destroy the foundation. She knows if our reputation is ruined, the donations stop. What do we do? Grace asked. Do we issue a statement? Do we sue her? I thought about it. I thought about Eleanor. What would Eleanor do? Eleanor didn't fight in the mud. She fought with the truth.
No, I said.
We don't say anything. Nothing. Grace asked. The truth always comes out, Grace. I said. Tara has lived her whole life online. She has documented every cruel thing she has ever done. We just have to let people find it. And they did. The internet is a powerful thing. When people started digging into Tara Hayes, they didn't just find her sad video. They found her old videos. They found the video from Christmas Eve. Tara had live-streamed my humiliation. She had deleted it, but nothing is ever truly deleted from the internet. A fan account had saved it. Someone reposted it. The video showed my father throwing my suitcase. It showed me begging for shelter in the snow. It showed Tara laughing and calling me a loser while flashing her ring. The tide turned instantly. The comments on Tara's new video changed from support to fury. Wait, you threw her out first? You mocked her for being poor, and now you're begging for money? This is karma. Then, the news broke about the crypto scam. Journalists found out that Dad had lost the money in a Ponzi scheme. They found out that Derek's company was involved in the fraud. By the end of the week, it was over. Tara's social media accounts were banned for harassment. Derek was under investigation by the FBI. My parents were hiding from the press. I sat in my office and watched the news report. The headline read, "The Fall of the Hayes Family." Grace stood next to me. "Are you happy?" she asked. I looked at the screen. I saw a photo of Tara looking terrified as she left the motel. "No," I said. "I'm not happy. It's sad. They had everything, and they threw it away because they were empty inside." Derek called, Grace said. "He wants to talk to you. He says he can explain." I laughed. It was a short, dry laugh. "Tell him I'm busy," I said. "Tell him I'm building a house." And I was. While my family was falling apart, the Callaway Foundation was rising. We broke ground on this second home project. It was a massive complex. 200 apartments for families in transition. It had a daycare, a job training center, and a medical clinic. I stood on the construction site wearing a hard hat. I watched the steel beams going up. I smelled the concrete and the sawdust. This was real. The internet comments weren't real. The gossip wasn't real. This building was real. It was going to keep children warm. Grace walked up to me. She handed me a coffee. "You know," she said, "Tara tried to ruin you, but she accidentally made you a hero. Donations are up 40% since the truth came out." I took a sip of the coffee. It was hot and bitter, just how I liked it. "Poetic justice," I whispered. "It tastes better when you don't have to lift a finger." I looked at the unfinished building. "Let's get back to work, Grace. We have a deadline. Winter is coming." It was Christmas Eve again. Exactly 1 year since the worst night of my life. I stood on the stage in the courtyard of Second Home. The building was finished. It was beautiful. The windows glowed with warm, golden light. A giant Christmas tree stood in the center of the courtyard. There were 1,000 people in the crowd. Donors, city officials, and the families who were moving in tonight. Snow was falling lightly. It dusted my coat. But I wasn't cold. I was wearing a thick wool coat, a gift from Eleanor. And I was warm on the inside. I stepped up to the microphone. The crowd went silent. I saw Eleanor sitting in the front row. She smiled at me and nodded. "Go on," her eyes said. "1 year ago, I began." My voice echoed through the courtyard. I stood on a porch not far from here. I was thrown out into the snow. I had no money. I had no coat. I had no hope. I paused. I looked at the faces in the crowd. "I thought my life was over," I said. But I learned something that night. I learned that family isn't just blood. Family is the people who catch you when you fall. Family is the person who gives you a blanket when you are shivering. I pointed to the building behind me. Tonight, 200 families will sleep in these apartments. They will never have to face a locked door. They will never have to wonder if they matter. You matter. You are safe. The crowd cheered. People were wiping tears from their eyes. Then I saw them. Standing at the very back of the crowd, in the shadows, were 3 people. My father, my mother, my sister. They looked small. They were dressed in cheap winter clothes. They weren't yelling. They weren't making a scene. They were just watching. They looked at me on the stage, surrounded by light, surrounded by people who respected me. My eyes met my father's. For the first time in my life, I didn't see judgment in his eyes. I saw regret. Deep, painful regret. He knew, finally, what he had thrown away. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. She was crying. Tara just stared. She looked defeated. I stopped speaking for a second. The crowd followed my gaze, but they couldn't see who I was looking at in the dark. I had a choice. I could call them out. I could tell security to remove them. I could scream at them, but I didn't want to. I didn't need to. I looked back at the crowd. I looked at the families holding their keys. Forgiveness, I said softly into the microphone. Forgiveness isn't reopening the door that hurt you. It's walking through a new one. I looked at my family one last time. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just let them go. I turned my back on them. I walked toward the open glass doors of the new building. Welcome home, I shouted. The applause was like thunder. I walked off the stage. A little boy ran up to me. He was about 5 years old. He was wearing a new winter jacket that the foundation had provided. "Excuse me, Miss Lennon," he said. I knelt down in the snow, so I was eye level with him. "Hi there. What's your name?" "I'm Leo," he said. He held out his hand. He was holding a slightly crushed white flower. "I found this in the snow. It's for you." I took the flower. "Thank you, Leo. It's beautiful." "My mom said you gave us a house," Leo said. "She said you're our angel." I felt a lump in my throat. I looked at the flower, then at his bright, happy face. "I'm not an angel, Leo," I said. "I'm just a neighbor." "Merry Christmas," Leo said. "Merry Christmas, Leo," I replied. I stood up. I looked toward the back of the crowd, but the shadows were empty. My family was gone. They had faded into the night, like ghosts. I took a deep breath of the cold, crisp air. It didn't hurt anymore. I turned around and walked into the warmth of the building, surrounded by my new family. For the first time in a year, for the first time in my life, I truly smiled.